The station was busy at this hour. Thousands of people moved through the corridors like water flowing through pipes. Some were human. Most were not. Tall beings with blue skin walked beside short creatures covered in fur. Insectoid aliens clicked their way through the crowd on 6 legs. This was Orbital Ring 7, one of the largest space stations in the sector, and it was home to over 2 million souls from 100 different worlds. Kira Tanaka walked through this chaos without really seeing it. She had her earbuds in, listening to music from Earth. Her backpack hung from one shoulder, heavy with books and data pads. She was 17 years old, a student at Stellaris Academy. And right now, she was thinking about the history exam she had tomorrow. She was not thinking about the 3 aliens watching her from the shadows. The Vethkai were patient creatures. They looked like giant insects, with hard shells covering their bodies and large compound eyes that could see in almost complete darkness. They had 6 legs, 4 arms, and mandibles that clicked when they spoke. Their home world was cold and dark, and they had evolved to be perfect hunters in such places. Sketh was the leader of this small group. He had been doing this work for many years. He captured people from protected worlds and sold them to buyers in the Outer Rim. It was illegal, of course, very illegal, but the money was good, and Sketh had never been caught. He watched the human girl walk past a food vendor. She stopped to buy something warm to drink. Steam rose from the cup as she continued walking. That one. Sketh clicked to his 2 companions. Young, female, alone. She will bring a good price. The other 2 Vethkai made sounds of agreement. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only been in space for about 200 years. That made them exotic, rare, valuable. Sketh had studied humans before hunting them. He knew their planet was classified as a Class 1-2 Deathworld. This meant it was considered very dangerous. The gravity was high. The atmosphere was filled with a corrosive gas called oxygen. The planet had extreme weather, deadly diseases, and countless predators. But Sketh did not believe the classification meant anything real. He looked at humans and saw soft skin, small teeth, and no claws. They had no venom, no natural armor, no special abilities. They were clearly weak creatures who had gotten lucky. They had evolved big brains to make up for their weak bodies. Easy prey. We follow her to the residential section, Sketh instructed. She will take the maintenance tunnel. That is where we take her. The 3 Vethkai moved through the crowd, keeping their distance but never losing sight of the girl. They had done this many times before. The routine was simple. Wait for the target to enter an isolated area. Surround them. Use a neural stunner to knock them unconscious. Then transport them to the ship waiting in the lower docks. Most species reacted the same way when cornered. They froze in fear. Some tried to run. A few begged for mercy. None of them ever fought back. Not really. They might struggle, but it was the struggling of prey. Weak and desperate and useless. Kira turned down a side corridor. It was less crowded here. The walls were older, the lights dimmer. This part of the station was not visited by tourists or important people. It was where the maintenance workers went, where the pipes and power lines ran behind the pretty facades of the main corridors. The Vethkai moved faster now, closing the distance. Kira finished her drink and threw the cup into a recycling unit. She adjusted her earbuds and kept walking. She looked completely relaxed, completely unaware. But something was different now. If anyone had been paying close attention, her steps had changed. They were still casual, still relaxed, but there was something else in them now. Something that had not been there a minute ago. It was subtle, like the difference between a house cat walking and a tiger walking. The movement was almost the same, but not quite. Deep inside Kira's brain, in a place that humans did not usually think about, something was waking up. It was not a separate creature or a spirit or anything supernatural. It was simply a part of her that had been sleeping. A part that had been passed down from parent to child for over 200,000 years. A part that remembered what it meant to survive on a world where everything wanted to kill you. Her ancestors had lived in caves and hunted with rocks. They had faced lions and wolves and bears. They had walked across frozen wastelands and burning deserts. They had eaten things that would poison other species and survived diseases that would kill most life forms in the galaxy. And they had done all of this without claws, without venom, without armor. They had done it with patience, with endurance, and with a capacity for violence that had made them the apex predators of their world. Kira did not consciously know any of this. She just felt alert. Her heart was beating a little faster. Her senses felt sharper. The music in her ears seemed distant now, less important than the sounds around her. She could hear them behind her. Not the sound of their footsteps, the Vethkai moved in perfect silence, but she could feel something, a change in the air, a presence that should not be there. She did not panic. She did not run. She just kept walking, her body relaxing in a way that would have confused any predator. Prey animals tensed up when they sensed danger. They got ready to flee. Kira's body was doing the opposite. Her muscles were loosening. Her breathing was slowing. Her mind was becoming calm and clear. The maintenance tunnel was ahead. It was dark and empty and isolated. Perfect hunting ground, the Vethkai thought. Perfect hunting ground. Something inside Kira agreed. But that something had a very different idea about who would be the hunter and who would be the prey. Kira stepped into the darkness of the tunnel. Behind her, 3 insectoid aliens followed, confident in their skill and experience and superiority. They had no idea what they were walking into. They had no idea that the soft, harmless schoolgirl in front of them was carrying 2 million years of survival instinct in her bones. They had no idea that her species had been forged in the fires of a deadly world, shaped by constant danger into something far more dangerous than they appeared. They had no idea that they were not following prey. They were following a predator that had learned to look like prey, and that predator was waking up. The maintenance tunnel stretched ahead like the throat of some giant beast. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Cables hung from the walls. The lights were spaced far apart, creating pools of brightness separated by long stretches of shadow. It smelled like oil and metal and recycled air. Kira walked through this place without fear. She had used this shortcut many times before. It saved her 15 minutes on her walk home, and she had never had any trouble here. Until today. Behind her, the 3 Vethkai moved in perfect formation. Sketh was in the center, his 2 subordinates flanking him on either side. They spread out as they entered the tunnel, creating a net that would be impossible to escape. This was how they always did it. Surround the prey. Cut off all escape routes. Then strike. Sketh felt good about this hunt. The human girl had not noticed them. She was still walking at a steady pace, her earbuds blocking out the world around her. In a few moments, they would have her. Another successful capture. Another pile of credits. Then the girl stopped. Sketh froze. His subordinates did the same. For a long moment, nobody moved. The girl reached up and removed her earbuds. She put them in her pocket slowly, carefully. Then she stood there, facing away from them, perfectly still. "You have been following me since the academy," she said. Her voice was calm, conversational, like she was talking about the weather or her homework or something equally boring. Sketh's antennae twitched. This was not how prey behaved. Prey did not stop and speak to their hunters. Prey ran, or froze, or screamed for help. Prey did not sound bored, but Sketh had been doing this for a long time. He had seen prey do strange things before. Some of them denied what was happening. Some of them tried to talk their way out. It never worked, but they tried. "It does not matter," Sketh chittered, stepping forward into the light. "You will come with us now. Be quiet and obedient. It will hurt less that way." The girl turned around. Sketh got his first real look at her face. She was young, with dark hair and brown eyes. Her skin was smooth, without scales or plates or any kind of protection. Her hands were empty, her nails short and blunt. She looked exactly like what she was. A soft, defenseless creature far from home. But something was wrong. Sketh could not identify what it was at first. The girl looked normal. She stood in a relaxed pose, her arms at her sides. Her face showed no fear, no panic, no desperation. That was the problem. There was no fear. Every species in the galaxy showed fear when confronted by predators. It was a universal response, written into the DNA of every creature that had ever been prey. Increased heart rate, rapid breathing, wide eyes, trembling limbs. These were the signs of prey recognizing a threat. The human girl showed none of these signs. "I am going to give you one chance," she said. Her voice was still calm, but there was something underneath it now. Something that made Sketh's oldest instincts stir with unease. "Turn around. Walk away," Forget you ever saw me." Sketh made a rattling sound that served as laughter for his species. "Foolish, soft creature. You do not understand your situation. There are 3 of us and 1 of you. You have no weapons. You have no armor. You have nothing." The girl tilted her head to one side. The movement was small, but it sent a chill through Sketh's body. It was not a human gesture. It was the gesture of a predator examining prey, trying to decide the best angle of attack. "No," the girl said softly. "You do not understand your situation." She reached up and pulled her backpack off her shoulder. It fell to the ground with a heavy thump. She rolled her neck slowly, and Sketh heard small popping sounds as her joints loosened. "Do you know what a Deathworld is?" she asked. "It is a planet where everything is trying to kill you. The air, the water, the weather, the plants, the animals, everything. My world has been trying to kill my species for millions of years." She took a step forward. "But we are still here." Sketh felt something he had not felt in many years. It was fear. Real fear. The kind of fear that came from deep inside. From the ancient part of the brain that remembered what it was like to be hunted. But he pushed it down. He was a professional. He had done this hundreds of times. This was just a human girl trying to scare him with words. "Enough talk," he clicked. "Take her." His subordinates moved. They were fast. Much faster than most species could track. Their 6 legs carried them forward in a blur of motion. Their arms reached out to grab the girl. They never touched her. The girl moved. Not away from them, but toward them. She dropped low, her body twisting in a way that seemed almost impossible. One hand hit the ground, pushing her to the side. Her legs swept out, catching the first subordinate's legs and sending him crashing to the floor. The second subordinate changed direction, trying to grab her from behind. But she was already moving, rolling across the ground and coming up in a crouch. Her hand found a loose pipe on the floor. She swung it in a tight arc. The sound of metal hitting shell echoed through the tunnel. Sketh watched in shock as his subordinate fell, his body twitching. The girl was already spinning, the pipe in her hand like an extension of her arm. "My ancestors used to hunt by running after their prey until the prey's heart exploded from exhaustion," she said. Her voice was still calm, but her eyes had changed. They were focused now, intense, alive with something that Sketh had only ever seen in one place before. "In the eyes of apex predators, we do not have claws," she continued. "We do not have venom, we do not have armor, but we have something better. We have patience, we have endurance, and we have the ability to keep fighting long after other species would give up." She smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was teeth. All teeth. The smile of something that had spent millions of years learning how to kill things bigger and stronger than itself. "Do you still want to do this?" she asked. Sketh's first subordinate was trying to get up. His legs were not working properly after the impact. The second subordinate was not moving at all. Sketh was alone now, facing this impossible creature. He should have run. Every instinct in his body was telling him to run, but his pride would not let him. He was Vethkai. He was a hunter. He would not flee from a soft, clawless human girl. He raised his neural stunner and fired. The girl moved her head slightly to the side. The beam passed by her ear, close enough to disturb her hair. She had dodged a neural beam. That was not possible. The beam traveled at the speed of light. Nothing could dodge it, but she had seen where he was aiming. She had read his body language, predicted his shot, and moved before he fired. "My turn," she said, and then she was moving toward him. And Sketh understood at last what a terrible mistake he had made. Sketh fired again, and again, and again. Each time, the human girl was not where the beam went. She moved in ways that should not be possible. Not fast, exactly. She was not moving faster than his eyes could follow. She was moving before he decided where to aim. She was reading him like a book, predicting his every action. This was impossible. This was a nightmare. She closed the distance between them in seconds. The pipe in her hand swung toward his weapon. The impact knocked the neural stunner from his grip. It clattered across the floor, spinning into the shadows. Sketh tried to grab her with his forearms. She ducked under the first grab, twisted away from the second, and somehow ended up behind him. Her foot connected with the back of his leg. His knee buckled. He stumbled forward. A human foot, soft and small and without any natural weapons. It felt like being hit with a hammer. Sketh spun around, swinging all 4 arms in a wide arc. The girl leaned back, the tips of his claws passing centimeters from her face. She did not look scared. She looked focused, concentrated, like she was solving a puzzle. "Your species evolved as ambush predators," she said, still moving, still dodging. "Quick strikes from hiding, overwhelming force against weaker prey. You never had to learn how to fight something that fights back." She grabbed one of his arms and pulled. Sketh felt himself being yanked off balance. How was she so strong? Humans were supposed to be weak. Their muscles were supposed to be inferior. He hit the ground hard. Before he could recover, the girl was on top of him. Her knee pressed into his thorax, right where the shell was thinnest. Pain exploded through his body. "Humans evolved differently," she continued. Her voice was not even breathing hard. "We evolved as persistence predators. We did not ambush our prey. We followed it. For hours. For days. We kept following until the prey could not run anymore. Until its legs gave out. Until its heart stopped." She leaned closer. Her eyes were calm, steady, absolutely terrifying. "We learned patience. We learned endurance. And we learned that the hunt is not over until the prey is dead." Sketh tried to throw her off. He was bigger than her. He was stronger than her. He should be able to toss her aside like a toy. But she moved with his movement, shifting her weight, staying on top. It was like trying to throw off water. Every time he pushed, she flowed around his effort and came back stronger. "We also learned something else," she said. "We learned that fear is not a weakness. Fear is a tool. When we are afraid, our bodies release chemicals that make us faster, stronger, more focused. We call it adrenaline. It turns us into something more than we normally are." She grabbed one of his antennae and twisted. The pain was incredible. "You should be afraid right now," she whispered. "You should be very, very afraid. Because right now, I am running on adrenaline. Right now, I am more than I normally am. And normally, I am already more dangerous than you ever imagined." Sketh finally understood. He finally saw the truth that had been hiding in front of him this entire time. Humans did not look like predators because they did not need to. They had evolved past the need for claws and fangs and armor. They had weapons that were invisible. Endurance, intelligence, adaptability, and an unbreakable will to survive. Every human walking around the galaxy was the descendant of survivors. Every single one of them carried the legacy of ancestors who had faced predators, diseases, disasters, and their own kind in constant struggle. The weak ones had died. The strong ones had children. Over millions of years, this process had created something terrifying, something that looked harmless, something that smiled and made art and talked about peace, something that could become a perfect killing machine in the space of a heartbeat. Kira stood up. She was breathing a little harder now. But she was not tired. The adrenaline was still flowing, still feeding her muscles, still keeping her sharp and focused. Her two original attackers were on the ground. One was unconscious. The other was conscious but unable to move. His legs had been damaged, and he lay there making small clicking sounds of distress. Sketh tried to crawl away. The girl watched him go, making no move to stop him. "I am not going to kill you," she said. "I could. Believe me, right now, part of me really wants to. But I am not going to." Sketh stopped crawling. He looked up at her with compound eyes full of fear and confusion. "Why?" He managed to click. "Because killing you would be easy," she said. "And humans did not get where we are by doing the easy thing. We got here by doing the hard thing, the right thing. We got here by being better than our instincts." She walked over to her backpack and picked it up. Her hands were shaking slightly now, the adrenaline starting to fade. There would be a crash later, she knew. The tiredness and the fear and the shaking would come. But not yet. "I am going to call station security," she said. "They are going to come here and find 3 alien slavers who tried to kidnap a human student. They are going to arrest you, and then you are going to spend a very long time in prison, thinking about the mistake you made today." She pulled out her communicator and activated the emergency beacon. "The mistake," she continued, "was thinking that soft skin and small teeth meant weak. The mistake was looking at humans and seeing prey." She crouched down beside Sketh, meeting his eyes one more time. "We are not prey. We have never been prey. We just learned to hide what we really are. Because the most dangerous predator is the one that does not look dangerous." She stood up and walked a few steps away, leaning against the wall to wait for security. The shaking in her hands was getting worse. The adrenaline was definitely fading now, but she kept her face calm. She kept her voice steady. She did not let them see anything but control, because that was what humans did. They controlled themselves. They mastered their own bodies and minds. They took the animal inside and put it on a leash. Most of the time, "Security will be here soon," she said. "I suggest you do not try anything else. Next time, I might not be so gentle." Sketh lay on the cold floor of the maintenance tunnel and wondered how his species had made such a terrible mistake in their assessment of humanity. Soft skin, small teeth, no claws. Those were not signs of weakness. Those were signs of a predator that had evolved beyond the need for such things. And he had been foolish enough to hunt one. Station security arrived 11 minutes after Kira activated her emergency beacon. The first officer through the door was a Morvian named Thelvex. He was tall, with gray skin, and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. He had been doing this job for 30 years, and he thought he had seen everything. He had not seen anything like this. 3 Vethkai lay on the floor of the maintenance tunnel. 2 of them were unconscious. The third, the largest one, was conscious but not moving. His body trembled with what Thelvex recognized as extreme fear response. His mandibles clicked in a pattern that meant surrender in the Vethkai language, and standing calmly beside them, putting her earbuds back in her ears, was a human girl who looked like she was about to walk to class. Thelvex moved forward slowly, his weapon ready. His partner, a Colossian with scales and a long tail, fanned out to cover the other side of the tunnel. "What happened here?" Thelvex asked. The human girl looked up at him with calm brown eyes. "They tried to kidnap me," she said. "I declined." "You declined." "Yes." She picked up her backpack and slung it over her shoulder. "Can I go? I have a history exam tomorrow, and I need to study." Thelvex stared at her. He looked at the 3 Vethkai on the ground. He looked back at the girl. She was maybe 160 centimeters tall. She weighed perhaps 50 kilograms. She had no weapons, no armor, no combat implants that he could detect, and she had defeated 3 Vethkai slavers by herself. "I am going to need you to stay for a statement," Thelvex said slowly. "This is a crime scene. These individuals are wanted for trafficking across 17 systems." "Oh." The girl seemed mildly surprised. "I guess that makes sense. Can we do the statement quickly?" Thelvex nodded and called for backup. Medical teams arrived to take the Vethkai into custody. More security officers sealed off the tunnel and began documenting the scene. Kira sat on a crate and answered questions. Yes. She had walked through the tunnel. Yes. She had noticed she was being followed. Yes. She had confronted them when they cornered her. No. She did not have any combat training. No. She had never been in a fight before. The more she talked, the more confused Thelvex became. "Let me understand this correctly," he said, reviewing his notes. "You are a student with no training in self-defense. You noticed 3 adult Vethkai following you, individuals who are known to be dangerous criminals, and instead of running or calling for help, you turned around and fought them. Running would not have worked," Kira said simply. "They were faster than me. Calling for help would have taken too long. They would have grabbed me before anyone arrived. Fighting was the only option that made sense. And you won?" "Yes." Thelvex was silent for a long moment. He had interrogated many criminals over his career. He knew when someone was lying or exaggerating. This girl was not doing either. She genuinely believed that what she had done was normal, reasonable. The obvious choice. "The medical scans of the Vethkai show something interesting," he said carefully. "Their stress hormones are extremely elevated. 2 of them appear to have entered a catatonic state. Their bodies shut down from fear response." Kira tilted her head slightly. "Is that unusual?" "That response is typically only seen in prey animals after encountering apex predators," Thelvex said. "Their bodies believed they were about to be killed by something at the top of the food chain." The human girl was quiet for a moment. Then she shrugged. "I just defended myself. I did not try to scare them." But Thelvex remembered something. He had reviewed reports about humans before. He knew that their planet was classified as a death world. He knew that humans had evolved under extreme conditions. He knew that their species had risen to dominance on a world filled with predators much larger and stronger than themselves. He also knew that humans smiled with their teeth. No other species in the galaxy showed their teeth as a sign of friendliness. Teeth were weapons. Showing them was a threat. But humans did it all the time, without thinking, as a gesture of happiness and welcome. What kind of species, Thelvex wondered, was so dangerous that showing their teeth had become a sign of peace? What kind of evolutionary history created creatures who had to consciously suppress their predator instincts just to function in society? "You can go," he said finally. "We have your contact information if we need anything else." Kira smiled at him. He saw her teeth. "Thank you," she said. "Good luck with the case." She walked away. Just another human student heading home after a long day. Nothing special. Nothing remarkable. Thelvex watched her go, and he felt a chill run down his spine. That night, he filed his report. It was flagged immediately and sent to security forces across 17 different systems. Not because of the slavers' capture, although that was significant. They had been looking for these individuals for months. No. The report was flagged because of what it revealed about humans. The medical data showed that all 3 Vethkai had experienced extreme terror. Their bodies had reacted to the human girl as if she were a lethal predator. And the Vethkai were not weak creatures. They were ambush hunters, evolved over millions of years to be efficient killers. But against one untrained human teenager, they had been helpless. Thelvex added his own notes to the report. He wrote about what he had observed. The girl's calmness, her complete lack of fear, the way she had talked about fighting 3 armed criminals as if it were nothing special. At the bottom of the report, he added a recommendation. Human threat assessment requires immediate review. Previous evaluations appear to be critically flawed. The assumption that humans are physically weak and therefore not dangerous is incorrect. Their Deathworld classification should be taken seriously. Recommend extreme caution when dealing with human subjects, particularly in situations that might trigger their defensive instincts. He paused, then added one more paragraph. Personal observation. Humans have been part of the galactic community for barely 2 centuries. They smile at us. They seem friendly. They talk about peace and cooperation and building a better future together. But their world tried to kill them every single day for their entire evolutionary history. They faced predators, diseases, natural disasters, and wars against each other. And they survived all of it. They did not just survive, they conquered. Every human we meet is the descendant of an unbroken chain of survivors, stretching back millions of years. We should remember that. We should remember what that means. He saved the report and sent it. Then he went home and spent a long time looking at pictures of Earth. Mountains and oceans and forests and deserts. Beautiful, in its way, and deadly. So deadly, the humans had come from that world. They had crawled out of the mud and the blood and the constant danger. They had built civilizations and technology and art. They had reached the stars, and somewhere deep inside every one of them, Thelvex now understood, the predator still lived, waiting, watching, ready to wake up if it was needed. He shivered and turned off the screen. He was not going to sleep well tonight. Kira made it home in time for dinner. Her family lived in a small apartment in the residential section of Orbital Ring 7. It was nothing fancy, just 3 bedrooms and a common area with a view of the stars. But it was home. And right now that was exactly what Kira needed. Her mother was cooking when she walked in. The smell of food filled the air, something with rice and vegetables and meat. Earth food, made with ingredients grown in the station's hydroponics bays. It smelled like comfort. "How was your day?" her mother asked without turning around. "Fine," Kira said. She put her backpack down and sat at the table. Her hands were not shaking anymore, but she could feel the tiredness in her bones. Boring classes. Nothing special. Her younger brother was doing homework at the other end of the table. He was 12 years old and complained constantly about school. Right now he was complaining about math. "I do not understand why we need to learn this stuff," he said. "When am I ever going to use quadratic equations in real life?" "You would be surprised," their mother said. "Your father uses math every day at the shipyards." Their father came home a few minutes later, tired from his shift but smiling. He kissed their mother, ruffled their brother's hair, and asked Kira about her exam tomorrow. "I think I am ready," she said. "Just need to review a few things tonight." It was a normal evening. A normal family. They ate dinner together and talked about small things. Their father told a story about something funny that happened at work. Their mother asked about school and friends and future plans. Their brother complained some more about homework. Nobody noticed that Kira was quieter than usual. Nobody noticed the small cuts on her knuckles, hidden under the sleeves of her jacket. Nobody noticed the way she sometimes stared into space, her mind somewhere far away. After dinner, Kira went to her room. She sat by the window and looked out at the stars. The station turned slowly, and the view changed from empty space to the distant blue curve of a planet, then back to stars again. Light years away, Earth was orbiting its sun, the tiny world where her species had been born. Kira thought about what had happened in the tunnel. She had been scared. Of course she had been scared. Anyone would be scared when cornered by 3 alien slavers in a dark place. But the fear had not controlled her. Instead, she had used it. She had felt the adrenaline flood her system, and instead of freezing or panicking, she had become something else, something focused, something dangerous. That was the part that bothered her. She had hurt those aliens badly. She had enjoyed it, in a way. Not the violence itself, but the feeling of power, the feeling of being in control, the feeling of being exactly what evolution had made her to be, a predator. Humans liked to think they had moved beyond their animal origins. They had art and music and philosophy. They had laws and ethics and dreams of a peaceful future. They told themselves that they were civilized now, that the brutal instincts of their ancestors were safely buried in the past. But Kira knew the truth now. She had felt the truth in that tunnel, when the ancient part of her brain had woken up and taken control. The predator never left. It just learned to wait. It learned to hide behind smiles and polite words and gentle behavior. It learned to sleep until it was needed, and when it was needed, it woke up fast. Kira touched the glass of her window. Her reflection looked back at her. Just a girl, just a student, just another human being living her ordinary life. But she knew what was behind those eyes now. She knew what lived in the darkness of her own mind, waiting for the next time it was called. Over the next few months, reports began to filter in from across the galaxy. Stories about humans doing impossible things. A human freighter crew was attacked by pirates. They fought back with makeshift weapons made from engine parts and food containers. The pirates retreated, leaving behind 6 of their own dead or captured. A human diplomat was meeting with representatives from a hostile species when an assassin broke into the room. The diplomat disarmed the assassin with his bare hands. Despite being 70 years old and having no combat training, a human child got lost on an alien planet and wandered into territory filled with dangerous wildlife. Search parties found her 3 days later, perfectly healthy. The local predators had left her alone. Some of them had fled when they saw her coming. The Galactic community began to pay attention. They began to study humans more carefully. They reviewed the Deathworld classification and realized that they had underestimated what it meant. Class 1-2 was not just a number. It was a description of a world so hostile that survival should have been impossible. High gravity that crushed bones, extreme temperatures that froze or burned, diseases that killed billions, predators that hunted in packs, that poisoned with a bite, that crushed with their weight. And the humans had beaten all of it. Not by being the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. They had beaten it by being the most adaptable, the most stubborn, the most willing to do whatever it took to survive. They had beaten it by becoming the most dangerous thing on their planet. A new saying began to spread among the species of the galaxy. It started with the Vethkai, passed from one to another as a warning to their young. Do not hunt the soft ones. The soft ones remember when they were hunted. The soft ones remember. And the soft ones never forget. And behind their gentle eyes sleeps something that learned to love the chase. Kira heard this saying once, years later, when she was older and had seen more of the galaxy. It made her smile, because it was true. Every human knew it was true, even if they did not think about it consciously. They all carried the same legacy. They all had the same ancient predator sleeping inside them, waiting for the moment when it would be needed. Most humans went their whole lives without ever waking it up. They lived peaceful lives, worked ordinary jobs, raised families, and grew old surrounded by love. But it was always there, just below the surface, ready to emerge at a moment's notice. Kira stood at her window, looking at the stars, and made peace with what she was. She was human. She was soft and small and friendly. She loved art and music and learning about the universe. And she was also something else, something ancient and patient and dangerous. Both things were true. Both things were her. That was what it meant to be human. That was what the galaxy was just beginning to understand. The soft ones were not soft at all. They were something much, much more. And the universe would learn to respect that, one encounter